This tutorial will cover the PDF tutorials 5 and 5A on using the line and shape commands, and also how to use the object snaps, or OSnap for short. The first thing I've done here is opened up a new drawing with the standard ACAD template. As usual, I've turned the nav cube off, and I want to change my units from decimal to architectural. So again, I do that by format units and changes from decimal to architectural with a precision of a 16th of an inch. The first thing I want to discuss is how objects are drawn in AutoCAD. Thus far, we've been drawing mainly floor plans and objects, different shapes by hand, and we've been selecting a scale based on the size of the object and the size of the work plane we have to draw the object to. AutoCAD's a little bit different in the fact that when you draw any model or any object or whatever it is you're drawing in the computer, you always draw it full size. So if a line is 600 feet long, you draw it 600 feet. If something is only a 16th of an inch, you draw it a 16th of an inch. When you actually go to print your object, whether you print it to a piece of paper or a PDF or some other format, that's when you select the scale based on the size of the paper you're printing to and the size of the object. And it's convenient, you can do that with a print preview to set that up. That'll be discussed in a later tutorial. But the important thing to understand is that you always draw your objects full size. Never try and scale them as you're drawing them. Always let the program scale it for you when you go to print it. Down here at the bottom, I've again right-clicked to make sure that Use Icons is unchecked on the status bar here. And for this first tutorial, I want to make sure that my ortho is turned off, my polar command is turned on. Polar is used for tracking angles. I want to make sure my DYN, or dynamic tooltip, is turned on. So make sure that the buttons look something similar to what you have down here below. Again, if you have the icons, you can uncheck Use Icons and you'll get these words instead. First thing I want to discuss is how to use the line command. I introduced this a little bit in the last tutorial, but now I'd like to be a little more specific and talk about how to enter dimensions. So I'm going to activate the line command by clicking on it from the draw toolbar here. And notice here next to my dynamic tooltip, also in the command prompt here, it says specify the first point. This can be done a few ways. You can type in the coordinates for the first point, or even easier, or more commonly, you can click somewhere to start the line. In this case, it doesn't really matter where we start it. We can always move it later if we have to. Then you want to drag the line in the direction you want to go. So if you want a vertical line, notice it kind of snaps vertically and horizontally. Or if I want an angle, you can see that the angles track there with the polar tracking. In this case, I'm going to want a horizontal line, and I want a line that's 1/8 of an inch long. So to enter 1/8 of an inch, you can enter it two ways. You can enter it as a decimal, as 0.125, or you can enter it as a fraction. Being that we're in architectural units, you can simply do 1 divided by 8, and that will draw a line that is 1/8 of an inch long. Again, to cancel your command, hit Escape. Now notice if we auto zoom, double click the scroll wheel again, that line went from really small to really big. The length of the line hasn't changed. We can verify that by double clicking the line, bringing up the properties palette, noticing that the line is 1/8 of an inch. Again, that length doesn't change no matter how far in or how far out we zoom. Escape again cancels our selection. So now we have a line that's 1/8 of an inch long. Next, I want to draw a line that's 600 feet long. That's vertical. So I'll activate the line command again. I'm going to hover over the endpoint. Notice this little green box shows up and snaps to it. That's called an object snap, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And now I want to draw a line at 600 feet in the vertical direction. So I'm going to drag it in the direction I want to go. And now I want to type in my dimension of 600 feet. So I'm going to start typing 600. Notice how the dimension pops up in the dynamic tooltip there. But now I want to have it 600 feet. If I don't specify any units or no symbols, it's going to default to inches. So if I just type in a number like 600 or 52 or 85, it's just going to assume that it's inches. But if I want feet or anything other than that, I have to make sure anything other than inches, I have to make sure I specify feet. So in this case, I want a line at 600 feet, so we use the apostrophe to specify feet. Hit enter and hit Escape to cancel the command. Now it's way off the screen, but again I can zoom out, or better yet, auto zoom, and now I have a line that's 600 feet tall. Now you may ask, where did your small 1/8 inch line go? And if you auto zoom, it's almost impossible to see it, but if you pan appropriately and zoom in near the bottom of the line, you'll see there's our 1/8 inch line here. And if we click on this one here, double click that, we notice the dimension is 600 feet. So now we have an 1/8 inch line and a 600 foot vertical line. So again, to clarify how this works, if you want to draw a line from any point to any point, you could do it two ways. You can select the start point, and then you can click somewhere to select the end point, or if you want a specific dimension, click the line command. Again, click where you want to start, drag in the direction you want to go. Say I want a 36-degree angle, and I want a line that's, say, 325 feet long and 6 inches. This time I would draw 325 feet, and then just type in 6, and then it'll automatically be 325 feet 6 inches. Hit enter, and escape cancels it, and now we have a line that's that dimension. We can double click in the properties palette, and the angle should be the 36 degrees that we started at. So that covers using the line command. If you want to specify dimensions that combine whole numbers and fractions, okay, again, if I want to start from the end point of this line, and I want a vertical line, say that's 100 feet 5 inches 5 1/8 of an inch, I would type in my 100 feet to start. I would type in my 5 inches, and then whenever you have a whole number and a fraction, you always want to separate them with a dash, and now I can type in 1-8. If you don't separate them with a dash, AutoCAD's going to assume that you're typing in 50 versus 5 1/8 of an inch. We all know 50 is different than 5 1/8 of an inch. So if I type it in like that, hit enter, now I have a line of that dimension. If you forget to change your units from decimal to architectural, and you try and enter a line to so many feet, say you want a line that's 12 feet long, if you use the foot symbol here, you'll get this little red box here that pops up. That's because feet is not part of the decimal formatting units. So if you get that red box, always double check to make sure your units are set to architectural. Again, I'm going to auto zoom here, and now I have these shapes laid out here. Now for this portion of the tutorial, I'm going to cover how to use some of the other basic drawing tools, such as the circle and the rectangle. To draw a circle, simply click on the circle tool, and once you've selected that, the first thing it asks you to do is specify the center point for the circle. Whenever you draw circles, typically you specify them by their center point first. So I'm going to click to specify the center point, and now I'm going to drag out in any direction, doesn't matter which way, and now I want to enter the dimension, the size for the circle. Notice next to the tooltip it says specify radius of circle. Right now, if you were to type in a dimension, that would give you the radius. Say you wanted a circle with a 12-foot diameter, you would have to remember that. You'd want to type in 6 foot for the radius. And if you prefer to type in the diameter, you can hit the down button on your keyboard and change the specification to diameter, hit enter. Now it asks you to specify the diameter. So if I wanted, I say, a 100-foot diameter circle, now I can type in 100. Again, you need the feet symbol, hit enter, and now you have a circle of a diameter of 100 feet. So it's always important to note whether you're entering the diameter or the radius, because your circle could be twice as big or half the size that you're expecting. The next command I'm going to show is the rectangle or polygon command here. So again, as with any command, you always want to specify the starting point. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here and draw this off to down here in this space. So again, I'm going to click to start, drag it in the direction I want to go. It could be top right, bottom left, any which way. In this case, I want it to go up to the top right, and now I want to specify how big this rectangle is going to be. In this case, I want to make my rectangle 100 feet wide and 200 feet tall. So I'm going to type in 100 feet for the width, and then to get to the height, you want to make sure you use the tab button on your keyboard. Tab or comma, one or the other will cycle to the height, and now you can type in 200 feet, and it'll give you a rectangle that's twice as high, 200 feet tall by 100 feet wide. If you wanted to draw a rectangle starting from the same point, say I wanted this rectangle to go down in this direction here, okay, here I have a rectangle go from the same point that I started from, but in this time I want it to go in the down into this direction here. Instead of typing in positive numbers for my dimensions, now if I specify negative numbers, say negative 100 by negative 100, in the same fashion that I drew this one, my rectangle will go negative 100 feet over this way, negative 100 feet down this direction. Remember, we're working in a coordinate system relative to our origin, so we can use negatives and positives to specify vertical or upwards or downwards or left and right directions relative to the XY coordinate axis. So now we have a couple of lines and a couple of shapes. I'm going to add one more circle of an arbitrary size kind of up here in the corner. We have something that looks like this. Now I want to talk about how to use something called object snaps. On the bottom of your command prompt here, you want to make sure that your OSnap is turned on. The way you know it's turned on is it should be a light blue color versus this gray color. Now when you use this object snap command, say you wanted to draw some lines, okay, notice before that when you hovered over the endpoints of lines, kind of this little green rectangle showed up. This is used for positioning. So if I wanted to draw a line that started at this intersection here, I would hover over that till I reach that intersection, and now I can say I want to draw to the center point of the circle. Notice it snaps to that, to the end point of the line, and so on. If I right click on this OSnap button, I have lots of other options here that I can turn on and turn off. Say I wanted to turn on my midpoint and tangent and perpendicular object snaps. Now set from midpoint, say now to the tangent of the circle, and again over to the midpoint of here, and then to the tangent of the circle as well. So now for the remainder of this exercise, what I'd like you to do is simply experiment using the different object snaps to draw different lines and shapes at different points of these given shapes that you've already made. So for example, if I wanted to draw a circle at the midpoint of this line, I can snap to that, and if I say I wanted it to be equal to the diameter to be equal to the length of that line, I could snap to start it, and I can snap the end point, the radius, say to either the length of this or to the midpoint of here and lots of other places. I can again draw a line from here to the tangent of the circle. Again, the tangent is not showing up because I have to make sure I turn the tangent snap on, and now you'll find the tangent of this circle. I can draw a line to the tangent of here, and so on and so forth, and I can keep on going until I exhaust all of the snaps, all the object snaps on this drawing. Again, if you don't use the object snap command, while it may look like, say you wanted to draw a line from here to the end point of this line, say you drew it there, it may look like you touched the end of that line. However, when you zoom in, you notice that this point here is not exactly on the end of this line. You can keep on trying to move it till it gets close to that end point, but again, if it's never going to be exact unless you make sure you turn your OSnap on, and now if you go to move it from one point to the other, now it's exactly on that point, no matter how far in or how far out you zoom. So it's always important to use your object snaps in order to get precise and exact drawings using AutoCAD. That pretty much wraps up this tutorial on drawing lines and shapes and using the object snap commands. Just remember, when you're using the line commands, always make sure your units are architectural units, and make sure that you use the foot symbol if you want to enter some dimensions in feet. If not, any numbers you specify will be assumed to be in inches. Thank you for watching.